Hello everyone, welcome to Nihongadas and welcome to a new video of Nihongadas Off Track. This video is also a little bit special, but I feel like all the videos that I make, I always say they're special. But in this case, this one is pretty special. First of all, because we are going to record in different places. It's not only one place where I am. I will go through different places to tell you about a specific event that I will tell you later. And out of those places, only this one, where I am right now, it's pretty well known and it appears quite likely in many of the tours that you may do around Tokyo. But the other places are usually not that much inside of the tours in Tokyo. The second reason why this video is quite special is because we are going to talk about a very famous event. Even for foreigners, usually many foreigners know about this one. This event is called the Aquos Incident. Probably if I call it like this, the official name, Aquos Incident, maybe you don't know too much, but it might ring a bell if I tell you that this is the event that involves the 47 Ronin. Okay, so this event starts here, and today I will tell you about the event of the 47 Ronin that has been very well known, up to the point that even some Hollywood movies talk about this topic. Today I will try to tell you more about this event of the 47 Ronin. Before we start, just a little disclaimer. You may notice that the characters of this event are a little bit Manichaean, so to say. So the bad guy, very bad, the noble guy is very noble. Why is that? Well, let's say that after this event finished, it became so well known in Japan that it became the topic of several theater plays, etc. So it became a symbol of persistence, of loyalty to your lord, etc. So actually, what is real and what is part of a theater play, we might not know exactly. So I'm going to tell you what we know about the historical event. If what we know about the event is biased by the truth, by the theater plays, etc., we cannot know. So today, let me tell you about the story of the 47 Ronin. Before we start, remember, if you like the video, make sure you like, subscribe, share, blah blah blah. Anything you do to share the video with other people will be very helpful. So, if you're ready, let's start. I am now at the East Gardens of the Imperial Palace, which formerly belonged to the Honmaru, the main keep, where we had several important areas, like the shogun residence or the one that we will talk about today, the Matsuno Oroka. It's important to say Oroka means big corridor. Oroka means stupid, so be careful not to mix it. This Matsuno Oroka means great pine tree corridor, and it was a corridor between two very important buildings. On one hand, the Ohiroma, on the other hand, the Shirosoin. Both of them are gone, same as the Matsuno Oroka, because there was a fire in 1863. And I don't want to give you too much names, you don't need to remember Shirosoin, Ohiroma or Matsuno Oroka. Just remember that it was a corridor where the shogun used to meet daimyo or feudal lords from all over Japan. So it was a really important place, okay? And here it's where the Matsuno Oroka used to be. Next to them, where you can see the people looking at the sign, there is a monument and about the Matsuno Oroka, and that's all we have left about this corridor. Why is this so important? Because here is where the action starts, okay? Before we start, let me tell you about the two main characters. On one hand, we have Asano Naganori. Asano was the daimyo of the Akos domain. Akos was around what is nowadays Hyogo prefecture, okay? And he was the daimyo over there. On the other hand, we have Kira Yoshinaka. Kira Yoshinaka was the master of ceremonies, in Japanese the koke, okay? and he was working for the shogun. He was in charge of the protocol, ceremonies, etc. Okay, so how do they both of them come together? Well, in one of the videos before, I told you about the Sankin Kotai. If you don't remember, you have also a wonderful video you should check out. But anyway, just to refresh a little, during the Sankin Kotai, each daimyo from each domain had to spend 1 year at their respective domain and one year here at Edo. So when they were here at Edo, the capital, they had to be helping with different things. Some of them building the castle, some of them helping the shogun, etc. Asano's task when he came here was basically preparing a reception for the emperor's envoys. Let me give you a little bit of context about this. We are in the shogunate, and as we said before, when the shogunate is working, when we have a shogun and the power, it means the political power is controlled by the shogun, right? But that doesn't mean that the emperor doesn't exist. The imperial family always continues, okay? So the emperor is always there, but usually the functions are different. The emperor doesn't have political power at that point, and it's more something like a symbol. He works, for example, approving the next shogun. So let's say that when the shogun had to choose an heir, the heir was already chosen by the shogun. So, but after being chosen, it had like the emperor could give, like, let's say, a seal of approval. So the emperor could give a seal of approval to the next shogun, so that the shogun would have the political power, but it would be approved by the emperor. Okay, so like this, the emperor is sending some envoys from Kyoto. Okay, and the shogun wants to make a reception for those envoys. Everything is good, and the shogun assigns Asano to prepare the reception. Since this reception is very important, the shogun orders Kira Yoshinaka to work with Asano. Kira Yoshinaka, being the master of ceremonies, was the one in charge of knowing the protocol, the etiquette, how to behave, etc. But what happened? It is said Kira Yoshinaka was a corrupt man. He was really corrupt, and he used to like getting bribes from all the daimyo in order to behave. Let's say if I get a bribe from you, I will behave nicely with you. If I don't get a bribe with you, I'm definitely not going to be nicely with you. I'm going to make your life impossible. So that's what happened. He wanted a bribe from Asano, and it is said that Asano was a very noble man. He didn't believe in bribing anyone, so he refused bribing him. For any of these reasons, it is said Kira was very angry at him and decided to make his life impossible. He was insulting him, calling him like just a peasant, someone like, oh my god, you don't have any manners, you are like a boor, you know. So he started like teasing him, insulting him, treating him poorly, until Asano exploded. Everything blew up. It was 1701, April 21. And here, exactly on this location, the Matsuno Oroka, it's when, after Kira insulted him so much, Asano, who ran out of patience completely, drew out his dagger and attacked him twice. During the first attack, he managed to make a scar on Kira's face, but the second one missed the attack. And after that, they were separated by the guards. As I said, the Matsuno Oroka, the Shiroshoin, the Ohiroma, all this area around that we don't preserve right now because of the fire in 1863, all this area was really important to receive daimyo, etc., to receive the feudal lords, to talk with the shogun, etc. So drawing a weapon here, it was strictly prohibited, let alone using that dagger to attack a shogunate official. It was a grave offense, really, really grave offense. So what was the consequence? Asano was ordered to perform seppuku here. Seppuku is basically committing suicide by disembowelment. So Asano committed seppuku, and not only that, but also all his lands were confiscated by the shogun. The Ako's domain was completely confiscated by the shogun. So then all the samurai that he had didn't have a lord to work for. Usually the word samurai means servant, because you are serving a lord. If a samurai doesn't have a lord to serve, the word samurai becomes rōnin. That's why all the samurai working for Asano becomes rōnin, because they don't have any lord to serve. It was said by the shogunate that the revenge was strictly prohibited. You cannot make any revenge against Kira, because they were expecting that probably the samurai would be angry for that and they would want to take revenge on Kira. So the shogunate strictly prohibited any kind of revenge. The samurai, well, right now, Ronin, started talking. Some of them wanted to make the revenge anyway and defend until death, fight until death if necessary, etc. Some of them wanted to forget about it. There was many different opinions, but in the end, the one who prevailed was the captain. The captain was called Oishi. Again, it's Oishi, not Oishi. Oishi means delicious, yummy. So the name is Oishi. Okay. Oishi was the captain of this Ronin. Actually, out of all the Ronin who were there, only these 47 Ronin stayed. He had another plan on mind, so he said, right now, let's just wait and lie low. Kira was afraid of a revenge coming from Oishi and his men, so he decided to send some spies to check on them, to see if they were plotting some revenge against him. So Oishi, for over a year, went basically around the leisure quarters in Kyoto, especially around the brothels, taverns, etc. He was behaving like a drunkard quite often, until the spies checking on him realized that he was not plotting any revenge. He was very relaxed, drinking, etc. So he wasn't any kind of threat for Kira. So they went back to Kira and they reported back to Kira, you don't need to worry, he's not planning any revenge, he's not training, you should not worry too much. So Kira lowered down his guard. But that was Oishi's plan, that was Oishi's ruse. He was acting like that on purpose. He even divorced his wife and sends her away with the children just to keep them safe. He sends them away, most of them, except for the eldest son. The eldest son was called Oishi Chikara, and Oishi asked Chikara, giving him a choice. You have two choices. Number one, you go with your mom and the rest of your siblings away from all the travel, or number two, you stay with me, you come to attack Kira's residence in a suicidal mission and probably die with me. Chikara chooses the second one. He decides to stay with his father until death. And meanwhile, Oishi's men were trying to be hidden in plain sight. They were disguised around this area as workmen, traders, etc., trying to know this neighborhood correctly. We are now in the remains of Kira Yoshinaka's residence. He is Kira Yoshinaka. Okay, so during this year and a half, almost 2 years, these Oishi's men tried to be disguised around here, knowing this quarter, knowing the residence, etc. One of the men even got to the point where he actually got married to the daughter of the builder of this residence, just for the layout of this building, to report it to Oishi. So here is where the event known as the Akos incident happened. It was December 14th, 1702. For many sources, this day was December 14th, 1702, exactly 320 years ago. But for other sources, they say that this was according to the Japanese calendar, so this would be actually January 30th. But anyway, it should be around this time, 320 years ago, and exactly in this location. It was during the early morning and there was a heavy snowfall. But that didn't stop Oishi's men to gather at Edo and come here to attack. First of all, they tied up the guards on the outside. Second, they warned the neighbors on the surroundings. This is not a robbery, this is a revenge. Kira killed our lord, so we are doing the revenge. But we intend no harm for any neighbors in the surroundings. The neighbors understood. And actually, since Kira's reputation was not the best, as I said, he was a corrupt, so he didn't have a very good reputation, the neighbors decided to just not pay attention, turn a blind eye, and let the samurai do whatever they had to do, not be involved in that. So guards on the outside were tied, the neighbors were warned, everything was ready. And the people inside the residence was still asleep. This happened during the very early morning. So when everything was ready, one of Oishi's men sounded the drum. The attack had officially begun. At the front gate, Oishi, together with most of his men, attacked most of their retainers, most of Kira's retainers, and they had the battle there. But through the back gate, Oishi Chikara, the son, he came also with some of the men, okay? And then they tried to make an ambush. Basically, this became a clear defeat for Kira's men. Some of them died on the process, although no women or children were killed in the process. However, they couldn't find Kira. When they went to Kira's bedroom, he was not there. He was hiding. But one of Oishi's men, apparently he touched the bed and the bed was still warm. So they decided, let's keep looking for him. He must be around. He was hiding. So they had to be looking for him everywhere around this residence. After looking carefully, thoroughly everywhere in the residence, they found a hidden area behind the scroll. Alright, so behind the scroll there was a hidden area with a storage, a very little house inside that residence. And guess what? There was a man there. The man tried to defend himself, but he couldn't. And then when he was tied by Oishi's men, Oishi checked the scar on his face, the scar that Asano had done 1 year ago, or 1.5 years ago, with the dagger when he attacked him. So they decided, okay, he is Kira. Probably he was another one with the same scar, but anyway. They decided, okay, you are Kira. When they capture Kira, they give him a choice. You are going to get killed, but you can choose. Either you commit suicide or we kill you. The result is the same, but let me tell you that in Japan, in Japanese culture, there was a difference. When you commit suicide, the seppuku, by disembowelment, okay, technically it's more honorable way, also because it's harder to do, okay? It requires a lot of determination, bear with the pain, because it's unbearable to just disembowel yourself, and if you don't do it correctly, you may bleed a lot without dying, so it's a pain in the ass. But it's very honorable. Well, it was. On the other hand, the not honorable way to die was being beheaded. Okay, so basically they gave him the choice. Do you want to do seppuku and die honorably? But Kira was like crying and trying to refuse and trying to run away, so in the end, Oishi considered that it was going to be impossible to ask him to commit seppuku, so he was like, okay, we cannot this honorably, so let's do it the other way. They pinned him down so that he couldn't move, and he was beheaded. After that, they took his head. The revenge had been fulfilled. So they sent one of the Ronin, one of the 47 Ronin, who was called Terasaka Kichiemon. They sent him to Ako, back in Hyogo, okay, just to report that this revenge had been fulfilled and everything was okay. So, we always talk about this 47 Ronin, but actually from now on we have 46, because one of them, Terasaka Kichiemon, had gone to Hyogo to report about it. From this Kira's residence in Ryogoku, they took the head and they went to Sengakuji, 10 kilometers. So this is what we are going to do now. Let's go to Sengakuji. We are now at Sengakuji Temple, where the Ronin brought Kira's head. Exactly here. They brought it here and they washed it here. After that, they took it to Asano's grave, and they offered in front of the grave. The revenge had been fulfilled and completed. So, after that, the last thing to do was to turn themselves in. It was the shogun's time to decide what to do with them. The shogun didn't know what to do. On one hand, they had exacted revenge, even though revenge had been strictly forbidden since the very beginning, and that kind of revenge was punished by death, by beheading. On the other hand, the samurai had been acting very honorably, following the warrior's code every time. They showed loyalty to their master, they showed perseverance, etc. So even though they did something strictly forbidden, they still followed the warrior's code. And also, they didn't kill any women, any children, they didn't get any major casualties. They tried to reduce the casualties up to a minimum, because their objective was only Kira. Some sources even said that all the villagers, the citizens, the rest of the neighbors, they were so pissed off by Kira's corruption, and they were so grateful by the samurais, these Ronin's retaliation, then they actually asked for forgiveness by to the shogun. So in the end, the shogun made a choice. They had to be killed, but instead of being executed as it was meant to be, they were allowed to perform seppuku, or suicide by disembowelment, so that they could preserve their honor until the very end. This happened in February 4th, exactly for my birthday, but in 1703. That day, the 46 Ronin committed seppuku and were buried here at Sengakuji Temple. But wait, as I told you, in the beginning there were 47. What happened with the other Ronin? What happened to Terasaka Kichiemon? Well, as I told you, he had gone to Ako domain to warn everyone about this revenge. The revenge had been fulfilled. They did what they wanted. So it is said that Terasaka Kichiemon was actually pardoned. He didn't have to commit seppuku. He died much older, and many years later, when he died, he was even allowed to be buried also here, next to the other 46 Ronin and next to their master, Asano Naganori. Well, that's all for today, but before we finish, let me tell you 2 curious things I got. Number one, when I went inside, this didn't happen the last time I came, but when I went inside today to film this video, I was asked to grab like a casket with many incense sticks. I had to pay like 300 yen for that. So they were asking like, okay, take 2 or 3 sticks and leave these on each of the graves. So basically I was like taking 2 or 3 of the incense sticks and leaving them on the grave. Apparently it was mandatory. They asked that to everyone coming. Last time it didn't happen, but it's okay. But the second thing was like, I asked them after I finished filming the video, I decided I want to ask them because there's been something that has been haunting me during all these videos, during all the time that I was trying to build the script and research, so that, let's say that I really like this topic, I really like history, and I don't like the event of me saying something that is not correct. So if I say something that is wrong, please correct me, okay? But the dates, the specific dates where this event had happened really was haunting me. And let's say that, as I told you, that the date when the event happened was today, December 14th, but according to the other sources, that would be in the Japanese calendar. So in the other calendar, the calendar that we currently use, it would be probably around January 13th, maybe. But then I asked them about the day that all this Ronin commits seppuku. The date of this seppuku would be February the 4th, during my birthday. But also, in other sources, it is said that February the 4th would be in the ancient Japanese calendar. In the modern calendar, that date would correspond to 1703, end of March. So, I was concerned. Most of the places I've been researching said that the seppuku day was February the 4th. But was it on 1703 or was it in the year of this Japanese calendar? So, after researching in the internet, I even decided to ask the people from the temple. Turns out, they were not even sure. I asked one of the old ladies. The old lady was like, yeah, the day of the seppuku was December 14th. And I was like, no, that's not the one I'm talking about. December 14th is when the incident to Kira's residence happened, not the day of the seppuku. And then I told them, okay, it's meant to be February the 4th because it appears in many signs. And they were like, yeah, it's February the 4th. And I was like, but is it February the 4th Japanese calendar or is it February the 4th modern calendar? And they were like, not sure. So they were like, that old lady asked another man. That man took the phone and started asking to other people. And apparently he told me that it was February the 4th in the old calendar, in the Japanese calendar, which in the modern calendar would correspond, according to what he said, to the end of January. But is it the end of January, as he said, or is it the end of March, as I saw in internet? Why am I doubting? Not because I'm doubting his word, but also because end of January is when the incident itself happened, not the day of the seppuku. So I don't know if I managed to communicate properly with him. But anyway, it was funny just for you to know everything, to have a clear idea. Everything happened between the end of 1702 and beginning of 1703, more or less. The exact dates and when did it happen, it's a source of confusion, so you don't need to worry too much about that. But anyway, I know that this video has been much longer than other videos that belong to this Nihongadas of Trek video, but there was a lot to share. There was a lot of places in Tokyo that I wanted to visit, and I found, same as when I started with Dokkan, that there was more and more to talk about, but at least with Dokkan I could split it into different parts. Here it was better to make just one chunk, a big chunk of a video, and tell you about the story of the 47 Ronin. So everyone, thank you for watching until here, and see you next time. Bye bye.